This is a song that gets on everybody's nerves. I am going to rant this morning. I refrained from this yesterday. I'm writing a new piece for my Substack about this. Why? Because it has to do with arts. And since I'm no longer talking about that crazy ex YouTuber, ex friend, and I've been traveling, I haven't been quite as active on here or anywhere else except to fire off the most random of tweets. Okay, you know who I am? I'm Suzanne Titkemeyer. I used to write for a place called Pathos, a column called No Longer Quivering. For over 10 years, it had to do with the non denominational quiverful movement and evangelicalism in general. In the years I wrote for that, and it's been 3 years or so, 3 or 4 years since I wrote for this place, those years and the years before, I've seen every kind of goofy, weird thing on the planet that Christians are mad about, that there's verklimping going on about. When I used to be part of my old church, let me stop right here real quick and say, these are my opinions. Do your own research, like Renell Smith likes to say, form your own opinions. But I'm going to say I waited to form my opinion before I flipped out over this whole thing. Okay, I got to go back. At my old church, people would flip out over the dumbest, most random, silly, crazy ass things. And what do I mean? Every year, the Starbucks cup. Every year they would look at the Starbucks cup and say, it was a slam on Christianity. It was a slam on Christianity. The world is ending, blah, blah, blah. Knitter, please. No. These are years when I saw a cup, paper version of the one that I drink out of. The cup would have things on it like one year it was an ombre from burgundy to red. Another time it was snowflakes on a light blue background. Another time it was season's greetings in all different languages on the cup. So it wasn't necessarily putting down Christianity in any way, shape, or form. It was more of an inclusive thing. And I don't have a problem with including other people. I never have. You know, somebody that I follow on Twitter and on Facebook that I've spoken to a few times is really good about that. And like I said, I read his book recently about deconstruction, reconstruction. That's Kevin Young. And I think Kevin has the right way about it. Kevin wants the tent to be big enough for everybody. The tent to be big enough for everybody too, but I want my brethren who are minoring in silly stuff to think about what they're doing. So back to that. So they were always throwing the hands up in the air and screaming, persecution over any number of really dumb things. Okay. And I would just be like, I'm not seeing it. I'm just not seeing persecution. So there's nothing that a certain subset of not just Christianity, but evangelicalism, non-denominational evangelicalism. There's a certain subset of these people that just want to verklemp about anything and be and martyr bait. Martyr baiting in Christianity is huge. No, it was not mocking Christianity, Bliss, and I'll tell you why. Look at the picture in my description, okay? I didn't really look hard at the picture until yesterday when everybody was carrying on about it. And I went, wait a minute, that's Bacchus. That is the god of wine. That is not the Last Supper. It wasn't even the right artwork they were all throwing their hands in the air and screeching about. And the Last Supper has been parodied to death. I mean, everybody, even the Simpsons did a version of it. But that thing that they did, it was a live tableau of artwork called The Feast of Dionysus. And the only reason that I even saw that was, like I said, I just personally glanced at and looked away when other people were saying, "Last Supper, Last Supper, Last Supper," and said, "No, it's not an exact copy." And it bothered me that when I looked at, for a really short period of time, the postures, the poses were all wrong for the Last Supper. The supposed Jesus figure in the center was a light purple, like he'd been soaked in wine. So it didn't even dawn on me till last night. I was thinking Bacchus. And then a friend of mine posted that it was the feast of Dionysus. And I was like, "Oh, I see it finally. I see it. I see it." So this is what I mean when I say good Christian martyr baiting. This is where you take something and rather than actually thinking about it and researching what it is, you automatically just throw a fit. But this is the Olympics. It's supposed to be about inclusion. You know why they used that image? I'll tell you why, and it has nothing to do with the Last Supper. The Olympics are Greek tradition. Dionysus is just the Greek version of Bacchus, who's a Roman god of wine, fertility, all around pleasure. Okay. So they were trying to do a callback to that, not the Last Supper. I'm sorry that Christians worldwide feel like they've been mocked. No such thing. Christian martyrdom strikes again. Um, Tolo, that is my thing. And I didn't say anything. I didn't make a public statement beyond talking about what art is and isn't yesterday a whole lot because I hadn't really looked closely at the art. But once I did and I saw the purple on the dude that was like purpling, dumped in wine, I was like, oh, this is not that. This is something else entirely. And that's one of the things that I seek to do here is to educate people on things. And I'm not the most educated. I'm not throwing that out. Oh, I know everything because clearly I don't because I just lightly looked at the thing and said, oh, that's a weird version of the Last Supper. And I tend to approach art differently than most other people because of the years that I studied art in college. Like all art. Guess what? You're not supposed to like all art. Sometimes you're going to be offended by art. Sometimes art is going to push all your buttons to trigger you. Sometimes you're going to love it and you're going to feel peace and calm. It just really depends upon the piece and what the artist's intent is. Art is really genuinely showing the artist's vision. And I think that this was poorly thought out on behalf of the Olympics. I see what they were trying to do. They were trying to bring in a Greek element and combine it with something trendy, and it flopped. It failed miserably. It was a huge misstep by the Olympic Committee. Okay, let me throw that out there. There are better ways to include everybody. Oh, thank you, Tolo. I had to do that back in No Longer Quivering, but see, I think that is because of the education I received from, believe it or not, the nuns. I was taught to use logic and look at stuff without actually forming a first opinion. That's not to say I can't be provoked because I sure can, as you guys all know. But if it's something I don't have huge feels for right away, it's like I'm going to look at this. And even if I have huge feels, I'm going to look at it and think about it for a while. So that's the whole purpose of art is to make us think sometimes and to show us what it is. And many times there's some very big missteps. Does anybody remember the photographs of one Robert Mapplethorpe? Christianity was outraged about that in the 90s. I didn't care for his paintings. I mean, not paintings, his photos. I'm just going to say that. And there were a number of photos that I found downright offensive. But here's the thing, if you start screeching offensive at each of these things and you start trying to shut other people down, you're really curtailing the freedom of the artist. you're killing artistic freedom. So whenever I see these things that are offensive, I turn away and go, not my business. I'm not going to take offense at that because that ain't for me. And the principles of artistic freedom for me are way stronger than any amount of let's not offend Muslims, Christians, Jews, whatever. Art is the freedom in that artist's mind. Now, now I know I don't offend anybody with my art because I do a lot of landscapes, but I can't help that. I'm surrounded by beauty here, and it's hard not to. My son has been after me to paint him a picture for his room, and I'm about to embark on that. That's why I got on old holy clothing because I'm about to embark on that. But I like to think that if it was my thing to do whatever, that people might see the value in it. And that's not, like I said, there were serious missteps made with this thing. It wasn't really what I would call the right thing to do in that situation. I understand they were trying to be inclusive of the trendiest thing, which is the transgendered people, which I don't get because those people have been around forever. There've always been people that were um, different genders than the way they were born. And I never found that outrageous, but I guess it was because I was raised in the land of Bacchus. I was raised in South Louisiana, where goes beyond offending Christians. For me, it was about a host country offending multiple cultures that are invited guests. That could be because these are the French we're talking about now. Oh, I'm French. I'm Cajun. And we know that French culture loves to shop. Their art tends to be shocking. They tend to be kind of isolationist and up yours in a lot of ways. So I'm not entirely shocked that the French Olympic community would do something like this. Remember, the Olympics was a pagan festival dedicated to this. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. This is a Greek thing. It's a poorly done Greek thing, but it is a Greek thing. So I've chosen not to be offended, even before I was choosing not be offended, because I'm not the target audience. And one of the best tools that I took away from my old fundy town life was something my pastor taught on that he clearly didn't practice, which was you don't have to take offense at everything that rolls across your screens, particularly things you don't understand or not for you. You just look at it and go, well, yeah, I don't get that, but I'm not going to take offense. They also didn't, oh, yeah, see, I miss that job, man, but I'm not watching the Olympics. I'm not the Olympics target audience. In fact, I have to tell you guys, when I saw that the Olympics this year included breakdancing and skateboarding, I was kind of like, and the World Games are even weirder, some of the stuff they cover. John Oliver covered that last week, and I just laughed at some of the stuff they covered, like naked knife throwing and things. So there's some really out there sports. And I get that France likes to shock and likes to go, oh, 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 we're better than everybody else because that's just how they've always been. Their art world is even like that. They're artists, they're fashion houses. Sometimes it feels like they're giving the big middle finger to the entire world. But people that aren't used to that, that don't expect that, freak out when it happens. And when you combine that with Christian martyr baiting, it's like, whatever. It's going to be a huge explosion. There was a pastor, let me pull up his name, that I saw last night that did a video on it. I thought it was pretty darn balanced and good because that was when I picked up that this was not quite what everybody was saying. Oh, where are you? Where are you? I can't find it now, but it was a video that my friend Bruce Garenzer had shared on his Facebook wall. I'll put a link to it in the description. It pretty much, I thought it was a pretty balanced way of looking at things. These were historical Greek Olympics before the modern ones. Yes. So that's what this was. It was a callback to that. Stupid callback, but a callback. The only Olympics I really appreciated what they did was the year that they were in London, and they did the incredibly charming video with Queen Elizabeth and Daniel Craig, I guess it is. He plays 007 now. I don't keep up with that kind of stuff, but I thought that was well done. That was well done, and it was pretty funny. And nobody could take offense at that unless you were a James Bond purist who only believed in Sean Connery as 007 and thought that the Queen should not have fun. And there you go. So if you're offended by that, I suggest you take a second look at it because are you really offended that it was transgender people, or are you offended that you thought it was the Last Supper? You're offended it was the Last Supper. Perhaps you have to look at the Simpsons episode where they made fun of the Last Supper. Some of the other Last Supper parodies out there that I've seen. I actually roll my eyes when I see those things because, like, oh, not again. Because some things have been done to death. Now, this, I hope they never make the mistake of doing something so tone deaf. I guarantee if it had been people with more clothes and less sequins on, and it had been normal people or Olympic athletes, nobody would have batted an eyelash. This is just part of the whole non-denominational war on the LGBTQ community. Um, I have had so many friends through the years. The thing is, what I think of as angry Christianity seems to be completely looking for and manufacturing outrage. Exactly. That's what happens with the Starbucks cups that I'm looking at going, this is just an ombre cup of burgundy leading to red. It's not putting down anybody's holiday at all. It's trying to be inclusive to everybody who has a holiday in this season because there are a number of holidays in different religions right around the time that we call Christmas. That's why some people believe that they should be saying happy holidays because they want to include